Now, as we move forward with this series, I think it's worthy of note that we've reached Pittsburgh, who are out in the first round, which is really weird. Hasn't happened in a long time. And while there are many who will say, oh, well, we could see it coming this year, still surprised me. Now, there is a problem, and it's at the top of the board, which is cap space. What cap space? 79.8 million is what their projected cap is for next year. Even if the cap goes up to 83 million, that means they have nothing, almost nothing, to improve anything. So Jim Rutherford has his work cut out for him this summer, and he certainly has his detractors right now. This is the price you pay for success. This is what happens in the NHL. You win Stanley Cups. You end up overpaying guys based on runs in the playoffs, based on key moments. You say, you know what, I need this guy. So instead of paying him $2 million, you pay him $3 million. Instead of paying him $4 million, you pay him $5 million. And it builds up. And then there's other contracts on this roster as well that, yes, for people who are criticizing Rutherford for picking up or signing certain contracts, I'm right there with them, and we'll get there. I wanted to look at their last 4 years because it's been remarkable. 100 points minimum the last 4 years. That is saying something, and that's why Mike Sullivan's job is pretty secure unless they have a slow start. They win a cup with Sullivan in 2016 with 104 points that year. Goals for, they're number 3 in the league. Goals against, they're number 6. They get 111 points in 2017, where they win the Stanley Cup as the number 2 overall team in the National Hockey League. Goals for, they're number 1. Goals against, they're number 17. But in the playoffs, you see Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury play fantastic. And, of course, Fleury would go to Vegas in the offseason. 47, 29, and 6 is their record last year, 100 points. They go to the second round. They lose to the Washington Capitals. Goals for, they were number 4. Goals against, they're number 20. Now, this season, they finished 44, 26, and 12. 100 points again. First round exit, 4 straight games. But in the regular season, they were number 6 in goals for and number 14 in goals against. Pretty solid record for Pittsburgh over the last 4 years, and I could have gone back 10. But I wanted to just talk about those cup years and how that likely leaves them with a little bit of an issue. Now, I mentioned they've got about $3 million in cap space if the cap goes to $83 million, which is seen as the highest it could go. Cullen is a UFA. Garrett Wilson is a UFA. Ruedel is UFA, and Zach Trotman's UFA. None of these guys are going to be huge difference makers if they're not back. Matt Cullen will decide again during the summer whether or not he wants to retire or if he wants to come back and continue to build up games, looking at Gordie Howe and saying, I think I can get there. But he's over the 1,500 game mark, which is saying something, and we'll see whether or not he wants to return for another season. Honestly, I really thought Cullen should have retired after the second cup win, and that should have been how he went out. But it's his job, and he made some more money, and it's up to him whether he retires or not, obviously. I like seeing a guy go out with the Stanley Cup. And I'm sure guys like going out with the Stanley Cup as well. Ask Ray Bork. Restricted free agents, this is where it gets kind of tricky. Zach Aston Reese, arbitration rights this summer as well. He's going to get a raise. I don't know how much, but he's going to get a raise, and that's going to eat into that $3 million pretty quick. Teddy Bluger, he played well enough in limited appearances that he's not going to get a huge raise, but he does definitely deserve to stick around. Pettersson on the blue line. If you're going to lose Ruedel and Trotman, you're going to have to keep somebody around. Pettersson might as well stick around. And Ricola, who has arbitration rights, was a number 7 guy at points this year. How much do they keep him? What happens with Ricola? And, of course, next summer, and I had to put him up here because next summer the big one could be Matt Murray. Nobody will agree on what Matt Murray could be. Is he a star goaltender? Is he a great goaltender? Was he just lucky those 2 Stanley Cups? And I say it like that because you don't just luck into 2 Stanley Cups. And he played a major role in both Stanley Cup victories for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's not kid ourselves here. But how much is he going to be worth next summer? And they have to plan for next summer now. They can't get caught again like this. Could they? They could, but they really shouldn't. So shouldn't is the way I should have phrased it. Pittsburgh's in an interesting position. They had some, and I put notable streaks up here. So what I've been doing in this series, I've done why they missed or why they made the playoffs. There were some interesting streaks. A very streaky team for Pittsburgh. From October 30th till November 19th, they lose 9 out of 10. From December 15th to January 11th, they won 13 out of 16, or 15 out of 19. But the next day, January 12th through till February 9th, they lose 6 out of 7. March 2nd to 14th, they won 6 out of 7, and they lost 3 out of 5 as they were going into the playoffs. So very streaky team. And then in the playoffs, they get swept by the New York Islanders. They scored 6 goals in 4 games, and they allowed 14. So, that's the thing. Like, Pittsburgh went cold at the absolute worst time against the New York Islanders. Let's give the Islanders credit for shutting them down in 4 straight. But let's just call this out for what it is. This is a team that's started to look more and more fragile each season. So, the last year they win the Cup, man, this is an absolutely devastating team. Last year, pretty darn solid season, ends with a loss against the Capitals, who won the Stanley Cup. But this year they lost to the Islanders, who then get swept in the next round. So it's definitely a case of them eroding as a Cup contender. So what do? Well, you can't do a whole lot without cap space, so who do you move out? Now, Malkin's $9.5 million. It's a lot of money. He's also 32 years of age, and he's signed for 3 more years. So he's signed till 2022. That does mean that and you know what's funny is I talked about it 2 years ago, that if Pittsburgh really wanted to blow things up at any point, trading Malkin would be the way to go. And people were like, you're just crazy. That's no. But you know what? It may end up being what they have to do. The trick is you don't get cap space if you trade him and you get more money back. Kessel, $6.8 million. I don't think he goes anywhere at $6.8 million. I think that's worthy, but he is 31 years of age. Are his best days behind him? Is this the perfect time to trade him? That's up to Jim Rutherford to decide. If there's an issue between Kessel and Mike Sullivan, and it is decided that this is an irreconcilable difference between the two, that may be what ends up causing Phil to be traded out of town. We'll see, right? Hornquist, $5.3 million till 2023. That's not a horrible cap hit until you look at the production this year and you look at the fact he is 32 years of age. This is a league that keeps getting younger. And what Pittsburgh's done, because back-to-back Stanley Cups, right? You keep the band together. Well, the band keeps getting older. And in a league that's getting younger, it's going to affect your mobility. You're not going to be the first one to the pucks. And maybe there's not the motivation that there was when you get the back-to-back Stanley Cups either. Rust at $3.5 million. He's only 26 years of age. Bukestad, $4.1 million. He's 26 years of age as well. I think they're probably safe. But if he wants to make moves of a more of a minor nature than major, you could see Bukestad or Rust being moved out. I would be surprised to see either of them go. But at $7.6 million in cap between the two of them, we'll see, right? Letang, $7.25 million. He's in a lot of rumors. Here's why Letang's in a lot of rumors. He's 32 years of age. The cap hit is $7.25 million for another 3 years. And he gets injured regularly. And while when he's on his game, he's fantastic. Defensively, he can be a massive misadventure at times. And that has affected their fortunes. And the last time they won the Cup, 2017, he didn't really play a role in that. So Letang could very well end up being a guy who's on his way out. Schultz at $5.5 million. That expires next summer. He's 28 years of age. Do they look at maybe moving him out as a rental? What do they do? Goodbranson's an interesting one. So Eric Goodbranson's contract, as a Vancouver fan, I never thought we'd get rid of it because he's signed for another 2 years at $4 million. And Pittsburgh, a team that was already cap-strapped, took it in exchange for Tanner Pearson. Pearson gave Vancouver a scoring winger that they desperately needed, and Pearson fit in pretty well in Vancouver and cost less money than Goodbranson, so thanks, Pittsburgh. 27 years of age for Goodbranson, but the odds of him ever being a top 2 defenseman, that's pretty much done. And Pittsburgh fans found out he can be a good physical defenseman, but he can be a liability as well. Now, Jack Johnson's $3.25 million. Well, that's not that bad, right? Until you look at it's for 4 more years. Till 2023, that one, and he's 32 years of age. So again, you've got these guys signed for money, and they're past the age of 30 in a league that's mostly 25 and younger. Oli Mata at $4.08 million did not have a fantastic season, but he's 24, and he's young enough to bounce back. So the real challenge for the Pittsburgh Penguins this year, the challenge for Jim Rutherford is to fix this problem, which is that they're cap strapped badly, and find a way to make this team younger and still maintain them as a playoff team. Because with Sidney Crosby in the lineup, there's not going to be an appetite for a rebuild. There's not going to be an appetite to tear it down. And they don't really need to, but they need to figure out which of the contracts they have that they need to move out so they have greater cap flexibility so they can bring other guys in. I didn't really get into the prospect side of things. 1 second on that. And a big reason for that is because, honestly, when you look at it, the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Hockey News' rankings have a D+. They're 31st. And there's definitely a problem right now. It's not, and I know there's going to be people who say, well, we've got these prospects for Pittsburgh and they're good. But it's a matter of having that top-end talent. That blue-chip prospect, that sure thing. And I don't know that Pittsburgh really has one. So, unlike a lot of other teams that I've covered, there isn't really anybody coming in that you can say, yep, this will fix it. Sort of like we look at Nashville that I covered yesterday. And you have, their defense, and there might be a bit of, they might want to move somebody out to save some money. Good news is Dante Fabro's there on an entry-level contract. There isn't really that position with Pittsburgh. There isn't really anybody who can take that spot. There isn't really that top-end forward defenseman. In goal, you have Matt Murray, but he's about to become expensive next summer. So it is going to be a huge challenge for Jim Rutherford this summer, and we'll see. So is this the end of Pittsburgh's hopes of being a dynasty, or are they capable of a bounce back next year? They have had 100 points minimum the last 4 years. They're a good team, but are they a good playoff team anymore? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.